Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood. I'm delighted to welcome back Miguel with his fantastic film, The Ballad of Tita and the Machines. Let's take a look at the clip. Miguel, I'm just going to start by saying I love you and we love you at New Filmmakers and welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back for the third time.
The third time.
Yeah.
So happy for you. Every time I see your name come through New Filmmakers, we're always so delighted to see of your progress. I love the last time we saw each other was in Cannes Film Festival with your other film. Like you are like all over the world. Yes. So well done. Thank you for bringing this film to us. For those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yes, well, The Ballad of Tita and the Machines is about this elder strawberry picker, and she gets injured. So she hires a humanoid to substitute for her, and the humanoids keep breaking down because of the harsh working conditions.
I was mesmerized, like, especially it was even extra special seeing it on the big screen, but like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. You know, it was unbelievable, the whole design, the thought process that went behind it. The kind of scariness as if that would happen. It was kind of hard to watch as well and jobs being taken away. Where did the inspiration come for you, Miguel, in creating this project?
So I wrote the film with my co-writer, Luis Antonio Aldana, which you also know.
We love him.
And you know, the film is sort of an homage to my mother, who actually picked strawberries herself.
Yeah.
And you know, they worked the fields all their life, her and my father. And I remember, you know, when they would come home from like long hours of work, they were just, you know, dirty, tired, but there was like this sort of pride in the work of a job well done. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when Luis and I got together, we started thinking of what we could do sort of in the sci-fi that takes place in the future and make a commentary about our, you know, essential workers that, you know, pretty much put food on our table, but we often take for granted, mm-hmm. and they're pretty much rendered invisible in this country. So we kind of started with that idea, and we developed this world where humanoids are now replacing certain workers. But in this world, it's the first time that a humanoid steps foot into a field, mm-hmm. and they keep breaking down. And that was a commentary that we wanted, you know, that we started with when the initial inspiration of the film. And although you know, these are like, you know, very heavy topics and topics mm-hmm. that we really believe in and we want to talk about, we also felt that we should do it sort of in a very lighter way, almost absurdist, comedic manner, mm-hmm. To make this point. And that's how the film started.
And well, firstly, I mean, I'm glad that you shone light on essential workers because, you know, as we speak, there are so many essential workers that are doing amazing work around the country and they don't get the recognition that they deserve. So obviously something close to your home, and you know, it was like unbelievable to watch it in this manner and kind of scary that, you know, that these humanoids could sort of like take over. And I kept thinking of people losing jobs, but then I'm like, well, these people are working so hard. So it was a lot of combinations of thoughts there. How did you know how you wanted the film to orchestrate? I mean, you had the dimension of having like I want to say almost like AI, like special effects, like it would look so good on camera. Like, how did you go about kind of creating that dynamic?
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted the story to focus on the story first and not be distracted by the future and all the gadgets that exist. Yeah. So initially my idea was to have a little bit of the technology and a little bit of the future, get hints that we're in the future. So we start in the field and, you know, people are wearing their working clothes and they're about to pick strawberries, and then we see the hand scanners. So it tells us, well, maybe we're not kind of in the present. And then after the hand scanner, she takes a call that is a hologram with her daughter. And you're like, oh, we're kind of a little more into the future than we thought. Mm-hmm. And then when the humanoid shows up, then that's when we think like, oh shoot, it's, you know, it's in the future. So I wanted to gradually bring in the audience to the story and to Tita's world, and then slowly start layering with all the elements of what the world is.
Yeah, and you did. I love the subtlety that you brought to technology. It wasn't, like you say, you didn't kind of overwhelm with like it was very subtle but very effective, and well done on doing that. The scary thing as well for me was like, which is kind of feels like the direction we're heading into, which is like the rating system, which was like so scary because everyone's got different abilities. Some work quicker than others, but everyone's doing a hard day's work. That was so hard to watch, but that was effective, and it kind of feels like that's where we're heading in the future anyway.
It's true. I mean, we do live in a capitalistic society where it's about, more. We need to be more productive, that
Yeah.
we kind of start numbing ourselves to kind of just be human and to understand that, we are all human, and this machine is pretty much dehumanizes Tita.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not fit to work, go home. And the fact that they don't care how she's gonna pay her rent, how she's gonna make money. So it really puts into question this whole AI and automation thing and the effects that it does have on us humans.
Yeah, and you did a really good job with that as well, because I think the one thing you made emphasis on is that people have got bills to pay, rent to pay. This is people's lives that we're actually messing with, and as hard as it is to see them working extra hard, probably not for as much money as they deserve. On top of that, how worse it would be to not be judged upon your job and then give it away to AI. So timing was perfect, Miguel. Just so you know, what was it like directing something like this?
It was, it was such a beautiful experience. We had, the film was produced by Indeed and Hillman Grad, and 271 Films, and they just gave us as directors a lot of the support that we needed, and one of the producers is also Elena Sardina and Rafael Tomasetto, which are incredible producers. So I think from the get-go, I was surrounded by producers that really kind of nourished the space for me, that I was able to dive in creatively. And, the experience was just really great. We were very ambitious for our budget to write something at this scale, but that's what Luis and I usually do. We kind of just really take it beyond. So a lot of decisions had to be made in order to keep under budget, but it was just such a beautiful experience. Even and there was a lot of things that happened that were just beautiful things that happened during the film. Initially, when we wrote the film, there's a section in it where the humanoid says, you work on, 125 Pleasant Valley Road in Oxnard. Oxnard's where I grew up, where my parents picked fruit. And then when I got the call to go see the field, the strawberry field that could be the one that we possibly shoot in, I was getting the address and they said, yes, it's on so-and-so Pleasant Valley Road. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's on the street that I wrote, that I did not know the field was gonna be on that street. And then I show up to the field, and behind the field was a mobile home park, where I grew up in when my mother used to pick. I'm like, wow. So there's a lot of things that happen from like these little moments to cast to everything. And one of the things that I love doing as a director, one of the things that I wanted and I requested is I didn't want extras to be hired as field workers. I wanted actual field workers or people that have worked in the field, and even if they're not working now, or sons and daughters of field workers. So all our extras in their movie are that. And we got real workers, to be part of the film, which was really important for me to give it the authenticity.
Yeah.
And that, the wardrobe as well, and that people had the skill to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that you embrace the local community. How crazy that it was like the same, like you grew up around the area, and like that's so ironic,
so
right?
insane.
Like, wow, I love that.
There was a lot of magic moments that just happened. And back to the question of my experience directing, I always, as you know from my past films, my films are very story first, character driven.
Yeah.
So I always make it a point to really just sit down with the actors and like really kind of dive into their world and ask them a lot of questions about their character and ask them, why would you do this? Do you do this? How is this? And really get to know them, so when I'm on set and I direct them, I know their world that they have created and where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the crew, it's just, I feel like I was really blessed with such a phenomenal crew, from the DP, Robert Hunter, to, like I mentioned, the producers, to wardrobe. Everybody was just great. And the way that I usually approach working with crew is it's a very collaborative effort. So I never come in as a director saying like, this is how it has to be. Even though I have a very clear idea of what I want, you know, I always allow them to be creative and kind of dive into the story and give me their interpretation of what they think. And then we start collaborating together. So it's not usually that I come in and I kind of say, this is how it has to be, because a lot of times I don't know everything, and we just all know the world. And collaborating and working together, we really start fine tuning and creating the look, either for, you know, with the DP or the wardrobe or even the music or whatever it is. So that's sort of my journey that I hope to continue in the films that follow, just very collaborative in general.
I always love that your filmmaking is always story driven and character driven. I always can't help but feel so much, not just from the stories, but the characters that you create for us as well. Like, you know, immediately I'm like thinking about all the backstories and the lives of all these people working in the fields, and I'm like curious. I'm like, oh no, don't make it short. I want more of this. I want more. I want to see more of these characters. But like looking back on this film, like seeing it on the big screen, like seeing this experience, you've made a kind of like, you've mixed genre and time periods in this whole thing. Like, what was it like seeing this, and what's the reaction been like? And what did you want your audience to take from this film?
Yeah, it was really interesting because when we started writing, first off, like you know, you're absolutely right that I do dive into character-driven stories. And Luis is actually a really big sci-fi nerd. And
he is.
Yeah, he's a super sci-fi nerd. So we started writing this story about the future of work, or the possibility of what the future of work would be for these farm workers, and like how automation and AI would affect them. And as we started creating the world, you know, we were really focused on who Tita was, like where's she coming from? She has a wife that passed away, a daughter, and it was very character driven. And it wasn't until, you know, we had a draft and another draft and we created the whole world. And it wasn't until midway through that Luis tells me, this is going to be your first sci-fi project. And I look at him confused and I'm like, what do you mean? This is a story of Tita. And I'm like, oh shit, this is a sci-fi movie. So for me, like all the sci-fi and humanoids and all that stuff in the writing process was just sort of secondary to the story of who Tita was and what her challenges were. And you know, when we wrote this last year, I think it was in October of last year that we wrote it, the whole chat GPT and all that was just really exploding, and people were just like, oh my God, what is this? And a future that we were writing, we felt it could be in the near future, but not even a year after that. We feel that that future is actually a lot closer than we had imagined it only a year ago. In terms of replacing workers and automation going into the workforce. So that's sort of the journey of the creation and where we were at, but also in terms of watching it with an audience. You know, we wanted it, like I said, we wanted it to be funny. We wanted it to be light, a little farcical, but then you write this and you sort of forget that it's supposed to be funny. And even in the direction, you know, I was directing it in a way that it would be fun. And you just, you know, you finish and then you're editing, and you forget that these moments exist. You're just trying to polish and do this and do the sound and add this and layer it up. And then seeing it with an audience, all these little moments that we had forgotten that are supposed to be funny, and their reaction to the screen and talking back to the movie. It was just so beautiful to experience at New Filmmakers LA.
No, I mean, listen, I mean, so your feature came in 2017 with us when we were babies. And I never forget the audience you brought and just the support and how much everyone loves you, Miguel. Like, I mean, you really have people that love working with you and your film. Then obviously we had to do it virtually 3 years later in 2020. And then this year we get to do it where it's your third film with us, New Filmmakers LA, the Academy in celebration of Latinx storytellers. How was that experience?
Screening at New Filmmakers LA this year was just incredible. Watching this movie in the Academy Theater, it was a dream. I think the next day, and it wasn't even our premiere, but the next day I was high as if it was our premiere. It was just such a beautiful experience. The audience and you know, New Filmmakers LA, as you know, it's every time how you say that you're excited to see my next film at New Filmmakers, I'm the same. When I make a film, I think I'm so excited to submit to New Filmmakers LA, and hopefully I get to screen. Because honestly, like, you know, it is a festival, one of the few festivals that really does care about the filmmaker. And, you know, Larry and the entire team and all of you, you really do care and connect us with industry members, with executives, with companies, and really push for us to succeed. And not every film festival is like that, but New Filmmakers LA is at the forefront. And the screening this year, you know, that we had, it was so important because a lot of times, like I mentioned yesterday, we as a Latina community, we're seen as a monolith. And we have that one film that comes out every year that should represent all of us. And it should do well because it represents all of us. And it's not so. So last night was so important because New Filmmakers LA brought a group of filmmakers with diverse tastes, diverse styles, diverse genres. And we had a celebration of all the diversity within the Latina community at New Filmmakers LA. And it was so special to see that we are not a monolith, as people believe. There are so many different stories and genres and filmmakers and filmmaking types. And to celebrate that in one night is just such an incredible, incredible feeling.
Oh, you put it so perfectly, and like just to see so much talent in one room together and supporting each other, and just the energy last night was just unforgettable. But you're very well deserved, Miguel. But the only thing I can say is that, just like, you know, 6 years ago, and then 3 years later, I can't wait till 2026 for your next film. I'm just pre-warning you. I can't wait 3 years, Miguel, okay? Until you next submit to New Filmmakers. I'm just saying, we're gonna be on your toes otherwise. So what is next for you, Miguel? What's next?
So right now we are actually, Luis and I are adapting Tita into a feature.
You are?
We are. We
Yes.
started a couple months ago, and you know, it's been moving a lot slower than we'd like, but you know, because we are creating a whole new world, and there's a lot of questions that open up in really establishing the rules of this world. So we're very, very excited to adapt this into a feature film, and we hope that you know, that with the journey that the film has already had, and you know, it helps us to push the feature forward.
That's amazing. And you know, for me, it's been sheer delight just seeing your personal journey and Luis too, both how you just grown, evolved, like exploded like all over the world with your films. Like so immensely proud of you. And I'm just so curious, like where you're at in your career thus far now, like as an artist, what holds you up? What for other artists out there, what keeps you going? What holds you up? What inspirations mean to you, Miguel, for other filmmakers that just want to get their stories out there but don't know how? Like what would you say?
I would say that the advice that I would give filmmakers is that they really have to look in themselves to see why they're doing this. And a lot of times you live with a project for so long, and you know, once we look into ourselves as filmmakers and we say, this is the reason that I want to tell films, for me is, I believe that film is a vehicle for empathy, for changing the world, for making us better, making humanity better. I really do believe that, and that is sort of the weapon that I have for that is my writing and my directing. And I feel like, you know, young filmmakers should ask themselves, why do I want to do this? And if the answer is for money or for fame or for the Oscar, I think they're going to have a really rough ride, because it's not just about your goals, it is about the journey you're on. And if you really believe you want to do this because of very beautiful things that matter to you or they're inside, the journey is going to be super enjoyable, because we never get there. We get there and we do our first feature, and then we do the next one and the next one, and we're always on a journey. So if you're not really enjoying that journey and have deep-rooted reasons why you're in this, it's going to be very hard. So I'd really urge filmmakers, young filmmakers, to really dig deep and really ask themselves, like, why am I doing this? And to answer the right questions. And, you know, maybe you're not meant to be a filmmaker, maybe you are, but, you know, those are important questions, like in the initial stages to ask yourself. Absolutely,
it's a dedication, isn't it? And you gotta put your whole heart into it. Well, Miguel, it's always a pleasure. I can't wait for the feature version. I'm ready, we're all ready. But thanks so much for your everlasting energy. Thank you to all of your amazing cast and crew that always do such a great job to support you in your films. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daddy.
Really excited about Tita's feature. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite a pleasure.
Miguel.